Hi, I'm Tommy and welcome back to Studio Sense. Today we're going to be talking about an activity favorite fragrance of mine. AFFOM is the acronym. And you've heard of it, maybe you even own it. But if you haven't, you're in for a real treat. It's Polo Red by Ralph Lauren. Today's horse may have been replaced by the motorcycle, but never has there been more of a need for an activity fresh fragrance than there is today. Today we're going to be talking about why it fits the bill, some of the negatives, I don't know if you want to say negatives, we'll just say challenges that Polo Red faces in today's market, and where it came from. This is definitely not your dad's Polo. It seemed like back around 1991 when I think it was Polo Crest came out, and no, it doesn't smell like toothpaste, but it seemed like when Crest was released that Polo was going to have to endure some derivative flankers. And then in 2013 Polo Red was spawned, a true graduation of the original Polo, only with more subtlety and subliminal sensibilities than any previous flanker. Polo Red is a true fragrance born to be in motion. I think it was the Sephora.com tagline. Part of the tagline says that it captures speed, seduction, and adrenaline in a bold and fresh scent. Oh, and we can't forget the sexy. They put a little sexy in there too, just for marketing. We know, of course, that fragrance blurbs are meant to be, galvanizing and provocative. But in this case, I think it's very, very true. And it's a great descriptor of Polo Red in a few simple words. It is an active, sporty, soapy, sudsy, fresh, always on the move. I remember when I was a kid and I would always listen to music and I would always be moving and dancing or whatever, back in the day, and my dad would be like, "Stop moving, you're such a flibbertigibbet." And I was like, what the heck is a flibbertigibbet? I don't even really know, not sure what that is to this day, but it kind of made me think of Polo Red, something that's always moving, always active, always energetic and full of life. And it'll make sense as we begin to discuss some of the ingredients that make up Polo Red. One of them, of course, caffeine. Since the advent of Polo Red, there have been a lot of flankers. The few that I can think of, there's Polo Red Extreme, Polo Red Intense, Polo Red Rush, Polo Red White and Blue. Of course, they had to do that. Maybe there's some others out there that I missed. If I'm missing anything, please put below in the comments. Very much appreciated, but I think maybe that's it. In talking about Polo Red's presentation, one thing that I noticed is the lid itself is hard plastic. Comes off, it's fairly snug. And it also has like a snap line, what I call a snap line here, that when you put the lid on, it gives you that nice meaty snap, and you can actually still hold it up by the lid. It's a really good strength test for the lid to the bottle. And this is, of course, a 125 ml bottle, so it's a little bit heavier than your standard 100 ml bottle, so it does a really good job. In terms of the bottle itself, you've got obviously fire engine red, very shiny, and you've got a Polo logo in matte black. That's right, the logo itself is flat, creating a nice contrast against that bright red. It's really neat. Nothing else on the bottle itself, as you can see, the back. And then of course, I'm going to show you a picture of the bottom. So I think actually, let me hold it up really close. See if the camera has autofocus good enough to show that. You've got your batch code. You've got your little lid icon showing 24 months good after being opened for best use, and some other things there as well, just like a lot of bottles. So that's it. Overall, I really like the simple yet classic. Of course, the logo, the Polo design logo, is really all you need to say, hey, this is going to be a classy, really good quality product. Now let's see about that spray pattern here. I'm going to show you an example. If I can turn the atomizer this way so you can see the spray pattern. Here we go. Spray pattern right here. So it emits a nice spread or a nice cloud, but it doesn't go super far. So you're gonna have to put it pretty close to your skin to get a good amount on you. Polo Red features some, and I'm gonna start with the top and heart and bass accords in chronological order, as it were. But you've got your citrus, you got your warm and spicy, and then you've got coming right in through to the bottom there is more of a amber or a dark amber redwood note. When you first spray Polo Red, it's almost like a swig of your favorite, if you've ever drank like Scapa scotch before, like real top shelf scotch or whiskey, and it burns a little bit, but it also goes down really smooth. That's exactly what Polo Red does to your nostrils. It immediately warms the lining of your nose. You get that citrus opening but as citrus does, it chats you up about the weather and the price of mandarin oranges in China, and then it kind of moves on, and in the opening salvo you catch that basket of fruit that is at the very beginning, and I'm not sure that it's as noticeable as Ralph Lauren wanted it to be, but they tried to tick off as many red fruits and red spices and red woods as they possibly could in the making of Polo Red. I'm surprised they didn't use tomato as a note, since it is a fruit, but I guess there's no tomato accord. But there is red grapefruit, Italian lemon, and again that red sage, that red saffron and lavender, cranberry, and I couldn't help but think of the Cranberry song, "Do you have to let it linger?" Remember that? Because linger, fragrance. Sorry, that's the punster in me coming out. We're actually going to talk about whether or not Polo Red does linger or not a little bit later on. And as with most opening salvos, that's the best and most rewarding moment in the use of Polo Red. When you first spray, you get that bouquet direct from the atomizer, straight from Nebuchadnezzar's Hanging Gardens, enough that Amatus would have been jealous. Hot, spicy, starts infiltrating your senses, and again it starts warming the lining of your nose, and that's when you know that this is a great fragrance. And within those warm spices is a hint of saffron mixed in there, but it's more like a ghost of an afterthought, because it's there and then it's gone. Just a word about saffron. Saffron is a juxtaposition of a spice, and what I mean by that is what it is to the sense of taste is the exact opposite to the sense of smell. Saffron is often used in cooking as a spice, but what it is to the tongue is it's more of a bitter or a constrictive flavor, and therefore it works really well with seafoods. It's used in a tomato-based, oddly enough, soups and stews. But the saffron as a aroma or as a fragrance is very, it's almost floral insofar as it's got a really kind of an earthy, sweet, very akin to honey. And in the open, it's right there with the citrus, but as time goes on, saffron seems to be like, I think of it in terms of a fuse, when you see a fuse lit, and that fuse is burning its way down to something, some inevitable conclusion, and that's what saffron makes you think. So okay, it's got this nice warm earthy kind of semi-sweet red feel about it, and where is it going to go? Well, where it takes you is not where you think it's going to go, because it kind of poof disappears. It grows warmer and warmer until it hits the dry down, and then it just completely disappears upon dry down, unfortunately. I guess what I'm saying is that I wish this warm, earthy, sweet note had lasted much longer, because it did a lot for the fragrance, especially in the very opening. It's great. It stays with it towards the mid, and in the dry down, it just completely abandons up and leaves. That's not to say that the warmer, spicier cousins stick around for much longer, because now we're going to talk a little bit about what they do in their blend. Your nose begins to pick up on some of the notes and pick them apart and differentiate them, but sometimes, because they all share that earthy familiarity, that similarity, and that earthy tone in the middle is what kind of binds them, is the rope that kind of ties them together and makes them really strong. But what makes them strong as a fragrance doesn't keep them strong in the long run. The mid is where Polo Red begins to show its weakness, because that original burst that makes you think this is going to be an amazing fragrance, after a while in the mid begins to make you think that you've already seen the wizard behind the curtain and there's not much left to tell, and that it promises more than it actually delivers, and that it's all sound and fury, but not necessarily signifying nothing, but definitely not signifying everything that it said that it was going to be. Definitely not signifying the strength and cohesiveness that and the unity that the opening seemed to promise. However, the mid is also where you begin to notice the coffee bean. And if there's one thing that can be said about coffee, other than it's singularly renowned to be, to have caffeine, and it's used for energy and is energizing, is that in the world of aroma, it's also used to reset the olfactory senses when scent confusion takes place. In other words, if you're smelling several fragrances and trying to, find the distinctive notes in each one of them, after a while your nose kind of maxes out and reaches that confusion level. You take coffee grinds, smell them, resets the senses. And there are several things that can actually be used to do that, to reset your olfactory senses, but coffee is one of the most well-known ones. In effect, the aroma of coffee is your sense of smell's nirvanic center. And in such a way, it makes sense that this is when it decides to show up in Polo Red, at its center or mid. But similar to our fleet-footed friend saffron, the aromatic loveliness that is coffee doesn't flex near as much as it could. So in the opening, you have this light undressing of Polo from this galvanizing outer outfit to, on the inside, we begin to see an ensemble that is really very impressive. The red sage imbues its menthol properties into the saffron and lavender. But as mentioned before, the earthy properties of these spices is what blends them so well together. In with the heat spice and the amber that runs through the redwoods that begin to open up and a lot more towards the end of the mid into the dry down. The dry down is bittersweet in more ways than one, and I'm not just referencing the saffron here, although I am referencing the saffron here. The signature scent in Polo Red is the burgeoning amber and redwoods. It's like a fragrance fire in your nose that grows larger and larger with nothing to impede its progress. But as with most fires, they do burn down, and with the redwoods and not enough coffee, it just didn't burn long enough for me. I don't know if you've ever been in sales, you've heard the phrase under promise and over deliver. Unfortunately, Polo Red over promises but doesn't necessarily deliver on everything. It delivers, but it doesn't deliver on the long-term promise. It's not a long-term relationship, in other words. It was a grande when I wanted a venti. Remember the fuse analogy that I used earlier? Just to take that analogy a bit farther, one of the things that really excites and galvanizes people when a fuse is lit, especially right around July 4th, and people go to see fireworks displays, fireworks shows, and the really big ensemble that happens, the climactic ending, when they light that fuse, people are anticipating, and they're ready, they're excited, they know that fuse is going to end up with a bang and something incredible is going to happen. Well, that's what Polo Red feels like. It's such a good fragrance, it's such a good scent, and it's so well blended, but ultimately it just doesn't deliver on that promise. So it's never boring to watch a fuse run its course down to its ultimate destiny and doom. That's what Polo Red's dry down was like. It's like watching that fuse burn down with excitement and anticipation of that bang at the end, and ultimately what happens is that it just peters out just like an unfulfilled promise and doesn't give back what you think it does, because it gave everything. It gave all of itself in the beginning and in the middle. And honestly, just to reiterate, I have to say, even with the lack of a great lasting dry down, it's worth having Polo Red just for that opening. It makes the journey of watching that non-explosive fuse burn its way through all those great notes that blend to such good effect is truly an actively bolstering experience. As you may have become aware, Polo's greatest weakness belies its greatest strength. So unfortunately, the projection of Polo Red is only going to be anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, and then it's just almost a skin scent. It's gone. Most of the time when I spray it, I know that at midday I'm going to have to spray it again if I don't have access to it, because I usually carry it with me, as you can see right here. So you get 4.2 ounces, which is more than your average, obviously 100 ml bottle, is that you're going to be using it more than your average 100 ml bottle. And that's why I suspect that they made a 125 ml bottle, because you're going to be grabbing or reaching for a lot more than you would your average 100 ml bottle whose projection lasts 7 to 8 or more hours, because this only lasts about 3 to 4 5 is pushing it. But it just depends on your body chemistry as to how long the projection is going to last for you. But for me, it didn't last much more than 3 to 4 hours. As I've said before, when to wear this fragrance, there's an infinite number of varieties of activities that you can appropriately wear. It's primarily a summer fragrance, or I'll just say an activity fragrance. Wintertime, you can be involved in activities too, but pretty much everybody shuts down in terms of if you're a player of sports. If you're in high school or in college and you play basketball, football, baseball, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't have this in your locker or your gym bag, because it's one of the best after shower experiences that you can have with a fragrance. Having said that, I have worn it to the office several times, and I do get compliments. But primarily, if you're going to be wearing Polo Red, you want to be involved in some form of activity. Finally, Ralph Lauren is known for quality fragrances, and Polo Red is no exception. I think it's very well worth the purchase price that you pay for Polo Red, and you do get a great fragrance. You get a great opening. You've got some decent longevity, not great. I wouldn't even hesitate to say good longevity out of it. But while it is there, it is extremely gratifying to have and to appreciate and to be a part of. If any fragrance is verb, Polo Red is verb, active. Get off that couch, throw some Polo Red on you, get active, get going, get on that bike, whether it be a motorcycle or a BMX or a 10-speed. Get going, get moving, get out there, live, socialize, be a social butterfly, rub shoulders with people, make good friends, network. That's what Polo Red is all about. All right, guys, thank you so much for sticking around for my review of Polo Red. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed giving it. If you have any thoughts, any comments you'd like to make, please leave them below in the comments section below. Please like and also subscribe and share news of Studio Sense. We're a brand new fragrance channel trying to make it in the world, so we can use all the positive thumbs up and all the shout outs that you can give. So we appreciate that. Appreciate your support. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you next time.